everybody, welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis. Today is 23rd of May and let's start with the TNA. So first of all, let's have a look at the pointers of discussion. Firstly, we'll talk about an Indian Express article in the editorial segment. This article essentially reflects upon what is the mechanism of getting your approval renewed. And by your, I mean, what is the mechanism whereby a national human rights institution for a country can get its approval renewed every 5th year from a UN-based body. We'll understand something called Paris Principles. Those principles are must. The compliance to those principles are must in order for an NHRC to get its approval renewed. We'll also understand why there is a delay for the second consecutive year so far as the National Human Rights Commission of India is concerned. Secondly, we talk about the news updates, and this is going to be followed by the last segment of legal news, where today we have 2 updates to cover. So let's quickly start with the article. Let's have a look at the title of it first. Why has a UN body withheld accreditation to India's NHRC? Let's have a look at the context. So see, for the second consecutive year, an organization which is affiliated to the United Nations Human Rights Office, it has delayed accreditation for India's human rights body, which is the National Human Rights Commission. Now, which is this body which is responsible for giving this approval? So the body is called Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions. Now, with the deferment in giving this approval, NHRC cannot represent India or vote at the United Nations Human Rights Council. It was formerly called the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. The delay in accreditation, it can also be cited to raise questions about the independence, the competence, and the fairness of NHRC. Now, a question may arise in your mind as to why these questions are being, put upon the very credibility of NHRC because of the lack of this approval. We'll understand this when we talk about Paris Principles. Let's now understand some factual, trivia. This is about the NHRC itself. So this was established in 1993, in October of 1993. After the Parliament enacted the Protection of Human Rights Act, it is currently chaired by former Supreme Court Judge Arun Mishra. Now let's talk about this accrediting agency. What are, the principles on the basis of which the approval is given? What are the 2 categories in which these institutions are put? So the Geneva-based body, which is the Global Alliance of Human Rights Institutions, which represents nearly 120 national human rights institutions, it is responsible for reviewing and for accrediting these institutions in compliance with Paris Principles every 5 years. This body, this agency, it acts through its subcommittee on accreditation. It categorizes the member national human rights institutions into 2 groups. And these groups are Group A and Group B. Now, those which are put in Group A, it signifies that those institutions have fully complied with the Paris Principles, and those which are put in B category, it means there is yet to be a full compliance to the Paris Principles. There's partial compliance. Now, as of last year, November, 120 such NHRIs were approved. Out of these, 88 were put in category A, implying full and complete compliance with the Paris Principles, and the remaining 32 were put in the B category, implying partial compliance. Now that we've talked about Paris Principles, let's understand what these principles in essence are. The Paris Principles formerly related to the status of human rights institutions, which were adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in December of 1993. They set out the minimum standards that these human rights institutions must meet in order to be considered credible and to operate effectively. Now, there are 6 pointers, 6 grounds or criteria, whatever you may want to call it, which needs to be on those bases. These, approvals are given every 5th year. So what are those criteria? First is broad mandate based on universal human rights norms and standards. Second being autonomy from the government. Third is independence guaranteed by the status or by the statute or the constitution. Fourth being pluralism including membership that broadly reflects their society. Fifth is adequate resources. Sixth is adequate powers of investigation. These principles also say that these institutions, they should be equipped to receive complaints and cases which are brought by, let's say, individuals who are aggrieved, third persons, civil society agencies like the NGOs, trade unions, or other organizations representing professionals such as lawyers and journalists. Now let's understand what happens if India loses its accreditation. What are the impacts of not getting this renewal? So see, let's understand this in light of the Group A and Group B categories. So those having Group A status, they can participate in the United Nations Council, its subsidiary bodies, and some UNGA bodies and mechanisms. They are also eligible for full membership of the body concerned here, which includes the right to vote and hold governance positions. Now, those with B status, they can participate in the agency meetings, but cannot vote, nor can they hold governance positions. So, unless India is approved, it is accredited, the NHRC cannot represent the country at the United Nations Human Rights Council or vote or hold governance positions. India's review, it has been deferred. That is to say, it has been delayed with no final decision yet. So now let's understand, why has India's accreditation been put on hold? What is the reason behind this delay? So the decision was taken after an SCA meeting which was held on 1st of May at the United Nations Palace D Nations in Geneva. The SCA has such sessions twice a year, and it receives detailed briefings on each country. Subsequently, a pre-session it is held to ascertain an issue for accreditation, and this subsequently the pre-session it is held to ascertain issues of consideration, followed by an interview with each country's human rights institution. So this is the mechanism that has to be undertaken before an institution for human rights it can be given this approval. So the first May meeting, it was chaired by New Zealand. South Africa, Sri Lanka, and Spain were among the countries that participated in this meeting. The committee it is yet to release its report. So we do not have, let's say, detailed grounds and reasons as to why this delay. The report is yet to come. However, last year's report, it has listed down certain reasons which we can, have a look at in order to understand what might be the possible reasons for this time's delay. So the last year's report listed the area where the NHRC, Indian NHRC, was seen as not properly adhering to the Paris principles. These include a lack of transparency in NHRC appointments. Secondly, conflict of interest caused by appointment of police to oversee investigations. And thirdly, no minority or female representation on the panel. Also, on 26th of March, 9 human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, jointly wrote to this agency expressing concern about India's human rights institutions. It was stated in this particular letter that the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has raised concern about the increasing restrictions on the civic space and discrimination against minorities in India ahead of the general elections. These concerns were also raised by United Nations human rights experts who drew attention to attack on minorities, media, and civil society in India. The letter urged the agency to amend the current A rating for the NHRC. Now let's talk about what is India's record of accreditation with the agency. So the NHRC, it was established in 1993, that we've already noticed, in October of 1993, and it was accredited for the first time in the year 1999. It got A ranking in 2006 and retained this ranking of A till 2011. In 2016, the approval was deferred due to reasons that included the appointment of political representatives and the failure to ensure gender balance and pluralism in NHRC staff. But the SCA ultimately gave NHRC A status in 2017. Last year, the SCA, it withheld India's accreditation again, and gave 6 reasons for it, including that NHRC couldn't create conditions for operating without government interference, that there were too many government officials and individuals who are affiliated with the ruling party in NHRC. So that's about this article, and now we transition into the national news category for today. Let's quickly start with the national news, and this is the first update, which is in the category of sports for today. Ekta wins gold with season's best effort in club throw at World Para Athletic Championships. India's Ekta Bhayan, she secured the gold medal with the season's best throw, and the best throw is 20.12 meter in the women's F51 club throw competition at the World Para Athletics Championship. She is a Haryana Civil Services officer. She had won a bronze medal in the Asian Para Games in China. The Broadcast Audience Research Council has appointed a new person as the Chief of Measurement Sciences. The Broadcast Audience Research Council India has announced the appointment of Bikramjit Chaudhuri as its new Chief of Measurement Science and Analytics. He will succeed Derek Gray. He is a veteran audience measurement and advanced analytics executive. As far as Bikramjit Chaudhuri is concerned, he has a PhD from IIT Bombay and he holds a Master of Statistics degree from the Indian Statistical Institution, New Delhi. Oxford Economics Global Cities Index at 350, Delhi highest ranked Indian city on the index out of 1,000 cities across the world. Delhi has scored the 350th rank in the Oxford Economics Global Cities Index, which is compared the world's 1,000 largest cities on parameters ranging from economics to human capital. The list of 1,000 cities spread across 163 countries also features several Indian cities, including Bengaluru. We have Mumbai, Chennai, the other cities on the list being Kochi, Kolkata, Pune, Hyderabad, along with other cities. As far as the world is concerned, the charts are topped by New York. It is followed by other cities like we have London, Melbourne, San Francisco, LA, Seattle, Paris, Tokyo, to name a few. Next up is an update in the important days category for the day, and the day concerned is the International Biodiversity Day 2024. Please mark the date as 2nd of May concerned. So every year on 22nd of May, the world comes together to celebrate the International Day for Biological Diversity. And this is done in observance of the momentous adoption on Convention of Biological Diversity and the Earth Summit way back in 1992. Let's talk about the history of this update this day. So the International Day for Biological Diversity, it traces its root back to 1992, coinciding with the adoption of the Convention on Biological Diversity, a landmark international treaty for the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. The UN General Assembly initiated designated December 29th for observance, but later shifted it to 22nd of May so as to align it with the adoption date of the Convention on Biological Diversity. As far as the theme for this year is concerned, it is Be Part of the Plan. Now we come to the international news category for today, and this is the first update. India's Global Travel and Tourism Index ranked up at 39th position. So India's rank on the World Economic Forum's Travel and Tourism Development Index 2024, it has risen to 39th place, with global tourism activities returning to pre-pandemic levels. As far as the top scorers of the list is concerned, we have US. India is ranked highest in South Asia and among the lower middle income economies. India overall is ranked it was ranked previously in 2021 at the 54th position. After US, these are the countries that follow the lead. So we have US, Spain, Japan, France, and Australia, and they constitute the top 5 countries on this index. Europe sets new benchmark for rest of the world with respect to the landmark AI laws. Europe's landmark rule on artificial intelligence will enter into force next month after the EU countries endorsed a political deal reached in December. And thus, it has set a potential global benchmark for technology use in business and everyday life. The AI Act, it imposes strict transparency obligations on high-risk AI systems, while such requirements also for general purpose AI models will be lighter. It restricts governments' use of real-time biometric surveillance in public spaces to cases of certain crimes, prevention of terror attacks, and searches for persons suspected of the most serious and heinous crimes. The new legislation will have an impact beyond the 27 country bloc. And this has brought us to the legal segment for today. And first up is an update from the Honorable High Court of Kerala. So the Kerala High Court, relying upon the Supreme Court's decision in the case of Priyanka Srivastav, which is the 2015 verdict, and other decisions as well, has stated that preconditions have to be satisfied to seek investigation under Section 153, subclause 3 of the CrPC before a magistrate. The bench observed that magistrate should be vigilant in accepting applications seeking investigation in cases which relate to the fiscal sphere, matrimonial or family disputes, commercial offences, medical negligence cases, corruption cases, and cases where there is abnormal delay or laches. 156.3 essentially provides for seeking order from the magistrate for an investigation or lodging an FIR or proper investigation in the case of a cognizable offence. Now, the court thus held where application under 156.3 of the CrPC are to be supported by an affidavit duly sworn by the complainant who seeks the invocation of the jurisdiction of the magistrate. So, an application must be accompanied by an affidavit. In appropriate cases, the learned magistrate should be well advised to verify the truth and also verify the veracity of these allegations. And lastly, prior to the filing of the petition under 156.3 of the CrPC, there have to be applications under 154.1 and 154.3 of the CrPC. 154.1 essentially provides for lodging an FIR, and 3 provides for writing the substance of your allegation in a letter, sending it to the SP, so that the SP, if satisfied that the information discloses the commission of the cognizable offense, then the SP could himself investigate the matter or direct a subordinate officer to do so. So it essentially is saying that before you come to the magistrate saying that please direct the police to lodge the FIR, or if the FIR is lodged, then please direct the police to investigate, or if there already has been an investigation order, then to direct the police to properly investigate. So before you do that, these 2 steps must already have been followed by you and must have been, must not have yielded any results. So the name of this case is Don Paul versus State of Kerala. And this has brought us to the last update for the day, which is from the Supreme Court. So in a recent decision related to Benami Act, the Supreme Court held that the person who is claiming to be the owner of the Benami property cannot institute a suit or proceedings against the person in whose name the properties are held. The court also held that criminal proceedings on the same set of allegations are also not maintainable. The name of this case is the name of this case is C. Subbiya, aka also known as Kadambur Jayaraj and others versus the Superintendent of Police and others. So with this, we come to an end of our TNA. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day ahead.